All right, well, thank you, Pastor Jason, for inviting me to give some testimony. And happy Easter, everybody. My testimony is such as, when I was a little kid, I was a very bad little kid. I have two older brothers, and I was always in trouble. I was always the kid that was in trouble. I was always in the principal's office getting spanked with the paddle, and all the stuff that goes with being a bad kid. And when my parents died when I was very young. I was 8 when my mom died, and I was 12 when my dad died. And for a kid that was going down the wrong path from an early age, when my dad died, I just didn't have any guidance, and I basically just did whatever I wanted. I basically raised myself, and I got into drugs and alcohol heavily, and didn't go to much school. When I was 17, I got my driver's license. I got 3 DUIs in 6 months. I had lost my license, and so went my life. In and out of jail, a lot of in and out of jail and prison, and 17 years later, well, I was in jail one more time in 2002, and I don't know what came over me to read the Bible, but I was in a dorm, and it was very loud in there all day long, so I would stay awake all night and read by the nightlight that came down and shined upon my bunk, and I would read that Bible every night, and I read it once, not trying to really understand it or get caught up on the words or anything. So I finished it, and then I read it again, and then I got a Bible concordance, and I cross-referenced it with the other books and the other testimonies. And, I prayed 2 prayers. I prayed for my driver's license to get back, because they kept putting me in jail for driving on a suspended license, and it's just such a handicap not having a license, always looking in your rearview mirror. I always had a car, I always drove. Those were, and to have my daughters back in my life, because they were adopted out, which is probably the best thing that could have happened for them, because kids seem to mimic what their parents do, and I wasn't the best role model for my daughters. And so I got out of jail that time, I did like 12 months, and I got out of jail, and a month later, I was on the run again. I didn't show up for probation. I couldn't do any of their programs. I couldn't get my driver's license back because I couldn't complete their DUI programs, because I couldn't stay sober long enough, or I couldn't come up with the money to pay for these programs, because I was spending my money on drugs and alcohol. And, I went to Missouri. Me and my girlfriend, we just hopped in my car and we drove to Missouri. And a month later, I had my driver's license. And that's just one of the miracles that I've seen in my life from God. Now, I wasn't really following Him, I was just, but, I had read the Bible, so I did know better, and that was one of the stigmas that was kind of kept me leery about reading the Bible, was once you read this, you're going to know better, so, so that was one, and then, 6 years later, after going to prison so many times, I just didn't want to live in prison anymore, so I asked my parole officer for a program. He gave me a program, an Alcoholics Anonymous program, and I went there, and I wrote down, my life story, all my sins, I confessed them to God and man, and have since been forgiven for those. But, I was sober 10 years, and I contracted this emphysema, COPD, from smoking cigarettes, and and it was getting to the point where I couldn't do my job anymore. I had a very physical job. I was a mover. I would move people, and that's what I did pretty much my whole life when I wasn't in jail or prison, and I just couldn't do my job anymore, and I was just really depressed and anxiety, and I was worried about my bills, because the bills don't stop. If you can't work, the bills aren't going to stop. And so I collected disability for a while. This is just a couple years ago. And my last day of work was January 1st of 2020, doing the moving job. I just couldn't do it anymore. And, you know, so I was on disability for a year, you know, and you know, I gained a lot of weight and got fat sitting around the house and started coming to church a lot more and you know, started, seeking God, you know, and getting to know my God better. I go to 2 churches. I just started a Bible study last Wednesday, started going to the men's group here, you know, and I still do Alcoholics Anonymous. You know, I have a commitment at my other church. I make coffee every other Saturday for the congregation. You know, and I took on all these commitments to get closer to my God. You know, I want to know who I'm praying to. And, you know, I've seen the Lord's hand in so many areas of my life. And it's just amazing, you know. So when I got sober, I'll tell you this, when I got sober, a year later, when I was like 1 year sober, my daughters called me out of the blue, and they wanted to see me. You know, so I have a relationship with my daughters now. My wife has 2 daughters, so I have 4 daughters and 2 grandkids. And we're talking about getting the grandkids and my 2 daughters baptized, you know, and that's just, you know, I guess, it's like I said, kids mimic what they see, you know, and their parents, they're gonna, you know, my dad was a smoker and a drinker, so, hey, I'm a smoker and a drinker, you know, and but anyway, so they're talking about getting baptized, so we're gonna see if we can set that up. You know, I've been trying to do these mission trips to Mexico and be of service, because faith without works is dead. You know, and, you know, I'm just blessed today. You know, just the peace I have, even standing up here, giving my testimony. My anxiety out there was a little high, comes back down, high, comes back down, you know. But for the most part, I'm very, very thankful that I'm up here giving my testimony, and God is good. Thank you so much.